You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. Today I am very grateful to say that I have listeners all over the world. Sometimes I can't believe it. So when I say this, I'm like, who are my listeners in Japan? Who are my listeners in China? Can you reach out to me? I'm on social media at Judging Meghan. I would love to know who you are. This is so weird and stalkery. Meanwhile, I shouldn't be using that word for today's episode, but I have to start it light because we're talking about a serious thing today. But I look at I'm able to look where people are listening, and I'm always floored by where people live. And I'm just so grateful to you that you tune in each week and you listen to me. So I love hearing from my listeners. So I just want to say that we've all been put here for a reason, and we all deserve acceptance.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.
I'm a trauma survivor from a really young age, and I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD in the past few years. I've been surrounded by death and abuse much of my life. I've been dragged through the mud and have been to the point of not wanting to go on anymore. Through my interviews with other survivors, I've learned that there is a way out. From recovering to surviving and thriving, we all have the strength to come out the other side.
You are listening to Judging Meghan.
This episode today, for my listeners that might be in other countries, maybe you do want to listen to this because you want to know what's going on in the United States, specifically to California. But this is a very localized episode. The subject matter, though, I think is universal. It's very, very important. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. And my guest today, so sometimes I tell my listeners, I find people all different ways. I have an amazing publicist that sends me people apply. I don't care who you are, what your stories are. You're lived on my street growing up and your name's Betty, whoever you are, you apply to be on my show. I say this all the time. You matter. Your story matters. Keep going. That's all I care about. That's why I do what I do. So today I'm fortunate enough to have a violent crime survivor, an ultra runner, and a social media expert that we are going to find a job at the end of this. So I'm going to just say that before we start. Her name is Talia Landman. I found Talia through TikTok, believe it or not. And I do find guests, like I said, all different ways. But TikTok for me, I find survivors of all different kinds of trauma through TikTok. Like I say a lot, social media is terrifying. And I'm sorry, Talia, because I know that this is what you do for a living, but I have 2 young daughters. And there's really scary things about social media, but there's also incredibly amazing, fantastic things on social media for people like myself and Talia that is, this survivor of this horrific attack and what she's going through right now. And her story needs to be heard. So welcome, Talia. I'm so grateful that you're on the podcast.
Thank you, Meghan. I'm so grateful for you. And you're right. I do social media as a living for brands and businesses and companies and whatnot. But you are right with how social media can be very overwhelming. It can be a very scary place. It could be a not so great place. But there's people like you who want to share stories and elevate voices and connect with other people. And that's what makes it a great, wonderful place in some aspects. For me, has been a really big part in me advocating for myself and has gotten me to where I am. I mean, I don't know where I'd be right now if I was not using social media to advocate. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored to have you on. So we're going to share your story, but I'm going to tell everyone before we get into this story. So if you live in the Los Angeles area, I have lived in LA. I live in a beach city, so a beach community, but LA is LA. So you could say anywhere from like the Deep Valley to Venice, any of the beach community, South Bay. It's a large area. In LA, since I have moved here, so I've lived here I don't even know. I'm so old. Long time, 20 plus years, probably like 25 years, maybe. I moved here young. It was a completely different place when I moved here. I remember driving through Century City, Beverly Hills. You never saw a homeless person. If you lived by the beach or Venice or any of these areas, yeah, I mean, there was like one or two homeless people. But now our area, LA, has been overtaken by this homeless crisis. And I've done other episodes about this, and the compassionate part of me and the empathetic part of me is like, what is happening? These people are sick. We have a mental health crisis going on in our country. I talk about this all the time. Stemming from this mental health crisis, these people can't get beds in hospitals because there's overcrowding. Our prisons, they're letting out criminals because of things that have been signed. And again, I hate being political because I really consider myself like more in the middle. And if not, I'm on social issues, I'm left. But when it comes to this situation, this should not be political. We have a crisis and it is not okay anymore. Our looting in our state, I don't even feel safe going to my local mall. So I went to get my eyebrows done. I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox. I promise you, Talia, I'm going to get off in 2 seconds.
It all runs. You're speaking.
Okay.
Is she inside my brain, like saying exactly?
I know you had me at hello, by the way, when I saw you on TikTok. But everyone that knows how vain I am, and by the way, if you want to check us out on YouTube, you can see my eyebrows because they look really good. At least I still have good eyebrows. So I go to this mall. I'm not going to name the mall. But the girl that I go to in this mall, she said, there was a shooting. Okay. And there's all these young kids and they're doing gang activity. And there was a shooting at this mall. There's been multiple shootings at this mall. This mall's in the South Bay. I'll say that. And she told me that her business her small business has been so heavily impacted by what has been happening that they are afraid that they are going to need to close their doors because people are no longer going to the mall. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to start there, and then I'm going to ask you to share what's happening, but I will before I start. So Talia happened to have a story that caught my eye because she was victimized by a homeless person, and this person, as far as I know, tried to kill you and was sentenced to prison and got out, and nobody told you. So I would like to just start there and say, why is this happening? If anybody that's listening to this podcast has an answer for me, I'm always open to the opposite side of the story, because I don't want to think that the people that are running my state are not doing anything, but it truly honestly feels that way. I mean, I see proof on a daily basis, and so do you. So let's just start there. And now I'm officially off my soapbox and I'm going to let you talk.
You are speaking everything that I've been thinking. And I moved out here in early 2017. And so I'll just give you a little bit of a backstory, a very brief one. I had a boyfriend that I met him. I was living in Florida. My family all lives in Florida. I was a journalist out there, and I met a man at a music festival, and we hit it off. And 3 months later, I left Florida, moved out to California, had no job, no permanent place to live. And we were just, in love with each other, or so I thought. He ends up being a sociopath. I didn't know anything about like love bombing or toxic or abusive relationships. He was way older than me. And when I moved out here, I didn't have anything. So I didn't have my bed, a couch, a dresser. All I had was my clothes, my dog, whatever I can fit in the backseat of my Jeep, and then also him. So I should have left him on the side of the road and saved my printer, if anything. When we ended, which was a very tumultuous ending, a really bad ending, a lot of trauma happened there. One of the things that happened during that time was he kicked me out of the apartment that we shared. And so I had nowhere to really live. So I was almost homeless. But he also did it on a day that my job let me go. So I no longer had proof of income. I no longer had a place to live. He needed me to get out. I paid him for 1 more month of rent. And then I spent my time just camping, trying to get away from him, but also trying to become comfortable in California again. And long story short, eventually I found roommates and I ended up rebuilding my life out here. And then I was able to move into an apartment, this one. It's my own place. I live by myself now. And it was such a big moment for me because after living in a situation that was really, I mean, that in that apartment, I found out afterwards that everything that apartment was furnished with him was stolen. So for me to just even have a couch, have like this chair, have this desk, like, you know, I'm like, you know, this is like how I explain it? It's like, it's such a, to anyone, it's just an apartment. It's just like little bits of like little IKEA desk or something like that. But to me, it's like, this is my independence. It's my freedom. It's how I've overcame such hardship. And this is my home now. This is my home. I worked hard to obtain this. So I didn't really know when I moved out here. I knew that California was very progressive. I knew that it was very like open-minded, and there's so much. I mean, so many wonderful things about living out here. I felt like I still feel this way, that I'm living like 40 years into the future as compared to Florida. However, some of the policies.
Can I just piggyback on that too? Because I need to say, I love California. It's my home. I'm from Maryland. Like, I'm an East Coaster like you. That's why we like each other. But I'm a California girl. I have 2 daughters. Like, my husband's from here. Part of why I'm doing this podcast and why I'm so passionate to talk about on numerous episodes our mental health crisis in LA and our homeless crisis is because I want California to come back. And and again, it's a huge state. And I don't want to blame like Governor Newsom, or I don't want to put the blame on specific people, but there has to be accountability before we start your story. And people need to hear this.
Yes.
You know, I mean, period. So I wanted to say that when you just said that. And number 2, I am so sorry that happened to you. But what I'm happy about is seeing your TikTok videos, by the way. I love like your backdrop. If you watch this on YouTube, like with the plants and the greenery, it always makes me go, oh, I'm happy that you have that space. And I don't want you to lose that space. That's the worst part about it. It's like home. We have these little things and these places. Like when I was young, I had this apartment in West Hollywood on Doheny. And it was this like teeny tiny little like bungalow. And I loved it. And even to this day, I'm an old lady. I think back to that little apartment on San Vicente, like the corner of where that Juvan, the wine shop is. I lived in that little building, and it was like my favorite, one of my happiest places I ever had. So I hear what you're saying, but go on.
Yeah, I love California. I love Los Angeles. I love living here in Venice. I love Venice so much. But, and I don't want to put blame on anyone either, but I do believe that our politicians have power and they can make change happen. And the thing is that there's so much going on that I've noticed that things easily slip through cracks. There's a lack of communication. There's a lack of process between certain departments. And it's like, if I'm not on top of the DA's office or the Department of Corrections, or, you know, if I'm not making noise, nothing is going to happen.
Okay, why don't we first say what exactly has happened to you so the listeners know? So you moved here, you got out of this relationship, you finally got this amazing place. You were like, this is awesome, I'm independent. And then what happened?
So the year's 2019, I move in here. I'm in here for not even maybe like a month or 2. And I noticed there's this man in the alley camping out. He's like an encampment behind the building. And back then, it was, it wasn't as bad as it is, or it was during the pandemic or is now. But back then, it was almost like normal to see stuff like that. He wasn't bothering me. He wasn't bothering anyone else, but he had a girlfriend. They were fighting. And so being someone who came out of a toxic, abusive, he wasn't physically abusive, my ex, but he was verbally, emotionally, psychologically. And I heard those fights and that triggered something in my brain. So I paid attention to it. Mm-hmm. And I would just started to become very hyper aware of like this homeless couple fighting. Then I noticed that she was gone. And so then he was by himself and he starts going on these like tangents. He's screaming, he's yelling, he's shouting about wanting to kill, rape, beat women. He's screaming, like saying things like, I should have fucking slapped you. I should have punched you, like yelling here in the alleyway. And he's clearly not well mentally. He was also very strung out. He looked like he was on drugs. And so my neighbors and I would kind of like, we would notice, but we wouldn't like do much about it. We wouldn't like say anything to him because we were kind of just like, what's going on? Like, this guy's just mentally ill. But then when he started to escalate more, that's when things became a little scary. So his escalating started right around the pandemic. So now we're in 2020, the pandemic is going on and I'm working from home and I would be I ran social media for a public figure and he was on a podcast. He would be recording podcasts like how we are now, or he had his own. And so sometimes I'd be on there with him and I would have my stuff muted. But if by chance they had to talk to me about something, I would unmute and you could hear this dude screaming in the background. So it got to the point where it was like disruptive. Mm-hmm. Eventually he started to escalate in terms of like physical. So he would start throwing things. He was breaking things. He was smashing cameras. He threw a rock through my neighbor's window. So she moved out. And then he started throwing rocks at my dog. So I have a little balcony. My dog is, she's now 13 years old. She's a Labrador, really sweet girl.
And you have a Labrador too. We messed
Yeah. Lab moms. I love it.
Lab moms.
She just loves to lay in the sun. And back then she was just diagnosed with cancer. And we were just like, there was a lot of stress going on in the pandemic and I just wanted her to relax and she loves the sun. So she would lay out on my balcony and just be minding her own business. And then he started throwing, and I started hearing like, and I'm like, what is going on? And I see that he's throwing rocks at my dog. Luckily he didn't hit her, but that was when I had to say something. And then he became aware of who I was and that I live here and I live here by myself. And he started to target me. He would follow. So I'm a runner and I would be training for a race. Back then I was mostly just running just for, stress because there was no races going on during COVID, but he would follow me on his bicycle and yell things at me. Then he would, come back to the alleyway. He'd be having, I think he was doing tons of drugs. He was definitely on meth. And I noticed that there were strange people coming through all the time, buying drugs from him. He'd be on like a tangent or just strung out. And he'd be, if he wasn't screaming, then he was trying to climb and break into the building that he was camping out next to, or he would try to climb up onto our balconies. It wasn't mine at first that he tried climbing on. It was someone else's, but it was during the day and we were all out there watching him freak out. And he was demonstrating that he knows how to break into he can climb up and break into our apartments. So we called the police. Police weren't doing anything. And
wait, let me stop you right there. That was the first time you called the police or police had been called before?
I actually called the police when he threw rocks at my dog and they never showed up.
No. Wait a second. Yeah. So the police never even showed up?
They never showed up. No. During COVID, there was so much going on that they were just like, well, if it's not a felony, if no one's getting murdered, then we'll send someone by eventually. But they never came. And this
was also the thick of COVID and Venice is like a huge area where the homeless have started to go. Yeah. Okay.
It was probably, and this was also when Mike Bonin was in office. He was our council member for District 11, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And so that was the first time I called the police. Then I don't know, there's so many, I must have called the police like 100 times, but then the other event that stands out to me was that day when he started climbing he tried to climb up on another person's balcony. We all called the police again. And the police, they did show up, but they just like gave us like, they didn't do anything. They were like, well, here's a card, here's a case number. But then I met my neighbors. And so we were all chatting and talking, and we all had the same concerns. We're all really fed up with this. And so we started a text thread. We exchanged numbers, started a text thread. And because I was the one who now lived the closest, because I mentioned, my neighbor over here who lived the closest to him, she moved out. I was also, so being that I'm a social media person and I document everything. I was a former journalist. I'm sharing these videos of this guy flipping out on my Instagram stories. I'm sharing it and tagging different Instagram, Instagram accounts that help to kind of show the homeless problem out here.
Like homeless LA, like there's a lot of different ones.
People of Los Angeles, Santa Monica problems. Yeah. So they were sharing my stuff, and they were helping me get like word out about this crazy dude, and this is not normal. Cause I need just some validation. Like, this is not normal. This is not okay. I'm scared. Eventually things just transpired, got worse and worse. And then he started to escalate to a point where I started to fear for my life. Mm-hmm. He became aware that I was calling the police a lot more and trying to get him removed. And so one day he comes by my balcony. I'm working. He says, "You're going to get yours tonight, bitch." And I'm just like, fuck. And I didn't record it because I was in here working. So I go out there and I'm just like, "What did you just say?" And he doesn't repeat himself, but I actually got video of him that day saying something like, "I'm going to get sober so I can climb up there." And there's one time where he yelled a threat. "You think I won't climb up there and fuck you up, bitch? Stop recording me." There was one where he said, "I'm going to get sober so I can like fuck all you, like get you guys all, I don't know, kill, basically fuck all you off." I think that it's like a threat about like hurting us or killing us or something. And then the police, they did arrive to talk to him again, but nothing happened. And so after that threat about my balcony, I was scared, but I was also like, you know what? This guy's a loser. Like, he's just a freaking crackhead, homeless dude. Like, he's not going to do anything. He's on drugs. And so a few days went by, nothing happened. And I felt like, okay, like he's not going to come up here. Then one morning, 2:00 in the morning, I wake up and there's a bang on my, on my air conditioning unit. And I wake up and I'm just like groggy, not sure what's going on. And I go to look and see what's outside. So I flip on the light onto my balcony and I open my sliding glass door and I see this guy's face, like maybe 2 to 4 feet away from mine. He has a hand on my balcony. He's trying to leverage himself up using my air conditioning unit. And he's screaming, "You want to play, bitch? I'll fucking kill you." And he's like literally like almost in my face. That moment, I'll never forget it. I have PTSD from that moment. I still have nightmares about this, and it's awful. And I screamed, and thank God one of my neighbors was awake, because I called 911. I'm like, he's here. And so, and I still have that text thread too. So it brings back chills. But my neighbor did see and verify that it was him. It was David Kroll underneath my balcony. He was there, and the police showed up maybe 30 minutes later. And by then he was gone. I did not sleep for an entire week. I didn't sleep for an entire week. It was hell on earth. My body wouldn't let me sleep. I'm actually shaking right now telling the story. Because I went into survival mode. I'm like, he's going to come back. He's going to come back. The police didn't even, I was like, can I get like a restraining order or something? Like, there was nothing that they could do because they were not there to see it happen. And, eventually, Santa Monica Problems connected me to a woman in Santa Monica who has gone through something somewhat similar. Now she uses her experience to help others. And so she helped me obtain a restraining order. There was also a morning that he followed me on his bicycle. I went out for a run just to try to clear my brain. And then he saw me and started following me. So I used that to get the restraining order. Like, he's following me. He's stalking me. It's a temporary restraining order. I knew he was going to break it. I knew that he was not going to stay away from me. Like, though the law means nothing to him. It means nothing to him. So one morning I'm walking Juneau's. It's maybe, like 5 or 6 days later after the balcony attack. And, I'm told that he's in the area. He's at this gas station right next to my building. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk her out the main exit entrance of my apartment building. That way he doesn't see me. Well, he actually was hanging out next to the side entrance where I usually leave and come out of. And it's like almost as if he was waiting for me. And so I leave, walk Juno. He sees me. He comes by on his bicycle. So he breaks the temporary restraining order because he gets within a certain amount of feet from me. I take a video of that. He sees me taking the video. He then turns on his bicycle and starts coming back towards me. And as he gets closer and closer, I have my pepper spray in my hand. I tried to kind of hide behind like a bush thing, but he was coming. He saw me. He's coming for me. And he gets within, I don't know, like 5 feet of me. And he goes to like reach into his backpack for something. And I spray him in the face. And so my neighbors were aware he was in the area. I start screaming, get away, get away. And so they came out, they saw him, they threw him away from me into the street. And that was when I called 911. And I knew that the only way for him to get arrested was for him to be caught in the act of committing the crime. It does not matter that I had video evidence. None of that matters if the police were not there to see it in that moment. So we had to get him to stay there. I'm like, we have to, like, in my brain, because I did not sleep the entire week, all I cared about was survival. And survival for me was getting this guy, getting this creature away from me and locked up somewhere. And so I'm screaming, we have to injure him. We have to injure him. We have to keep him here. We cannot have him leave. And thank God that I pepper sprayed him in the face because it got in his eyes. He couldn't see, but he was definitely on drugs. So when you're on meth or whatever the hell he was on, you don't feel anything. So thank God he couldn't see. So he tries to like run away. He goes to the gas station. He grabs one of those like squeegee things you use to like wipe down your windows in your car. And police came and they caught him in the act of breaking the temporary restraining order with a weapon.
What was his weapon?
The squeegee thing. Like it was like a stick.
Oh, so he was trying, but when he went to grab something from his backpack, do you know
what that was? He was going to grab. No.
Okay. But that was scary. I mean, you were obviously like,
I was frightened,
I want to say, I'm floored by this because as a woman, I mean, you're a young lady, like living by yourself in COVID traumatic enough, having this like person in an alley. I would have been, I'm already paranoid. I would have been terrified. And the trauma of having him do that, like his face and all that stuff, I am so sorry that happened. That's so scary, but you're so smart that you did all the things that you did. Because most people are not, most women, I think, would have retreated or I don't know, but this makes me angry. I can't blame the police because they're doing their jobs, right? But I can blame them. I can blame them because why aren't they, like, why do they have this protocol that somebody has to basically be murdered or have somebody stab them or something for them to do something? Like, why? That doesn't make any sense. You think that when you call the police, you're taught from your childhood, you call the police, they're going to come, they're going to save the day. And that's the end of that. I don't know if this is just like the Venice Police Department or it's LA. I don't know how that works and how I would be interested to find out.
So I found out actually that I should have gotten that him throwing the rocks at my dog was assault with like a deadly weapon. And that should have gotten him arrested. They failed me so many times. And then also during this was also Black Lives Matter. So they're getting pissed because they're like, well, blue lives don't matter. So why should we help you out? Like we got some comments.
Were they saying that to you?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, we hope now you see how important our jobs are, like things like that. So they're trying to prove a point. It was disgusting. I mean, there's so much more I can share about that.
Why would they personalize it with just you? That doesn't make any sense.
It wasn't just me. It was the neighborhood, but like they just didn't care. They just they don't want to be bothered. They just want to do the least amount of work. And so when we were calling the police, when it was like me and my neighbors, they would make comments like that. It took me having another woman with me, and then she actually got 2 random men who were walking, on the sidewalk that night outside my building when she and I were talking. She actually got them to stay with us. When the police came, they could verify, yes, this guy is dangerous. The police officer who wrote me the TRO another story from another time, but he was also sexually harassing me during this time too. So I felt like I had to just put up with like this police officer sending me really inappropriate text messages just because he's the one who wrote me this hero, and he was driving by my apartment at night to make sure like, oh, he's not out here. I'm going to protect you. And then it was so disgusting. There's a lot of corruption, a lot of like unethical police officers. And it really just opened up my eyes during that time.
I'm so sorry. There's also, I need to say this as well, because I like it to be both sides. There's also a lot of great police officers.
Absolutely.
And I happen to live in a community where I know they work their asses off for us. So I do want to say that, but I do understand that there are corrupt police officers, you know, and I am so sorry to hear that. That's absolutely horrific. Just like there's good people and there's bad people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But you would expect that you're a young girl living by yourself. It's COVID. You have a crazy homeless person that you have a restraining order against and nobody is helping you. That's horrific.
Yeah. So after that, he got arrested. I have videos of that I've shared to TikTok. And in fact, those are like the most viral videos I've posted. And it took almost 2 years to get from when he got arrested to us going to trial. 2 years. And within that time, we had politicians, Jackie Lacey was the old DA, and then a new one came in, George Gasson, who used to be the district attorney, I believe, up in not San Diego.
You see
San
my face, right?
Yeah.
Go on.
And and then it was like this. So I also learned too, and this is what really pissed me off, because I did a lot of digging and I realized this is not just someone who, he's just a crazy guy who just, he committed a crime. Now he's he's having to pay the price for this one crime. No, this is who he is. Like, he's actually a career criminal. He has felonies dating back 3 decades. Okay. He's been committing crimes since he was a kid in 3 different states, but his record, and just felonies alone, assault with a deadly weapon, possession of methamphetamine, possession of oh my God.
Firearm. Was it one of his,
I think it was.
okay.
Yeah. There was also kidnapping.
Yeah.
He would make threats all the time about sex trafficking. So that really scared me. There was domestic violence, battery, possession of a deadly weapon. It just goes on and on and on. Stalking. It goes on and on and on and on. And it was
how old is it? His name is David Kroll, by the way, for everybody that's living in Los Angeles. And we're going to get to
David Fern Kroll.
David Fern Kroll. Yeah. How old? He's probably in his 40s. I'm guessing, but by seeing his maybe younger, you can't tell these days.
He's like 30. I think he's like 37, 38.
Okay. He looks older because he's obviously been on drugs and done all the things he has. But he's okay. So I'm going to let you finish, but this is, again, I want everybody listening to know that you're a young lady. You live by yourself in Los Angeles. You think you're safe. You've done everything. You've been attacked, restraining order. And this took 2 years to go to trial. 2 years. And was he out on the streets during those 2 years? And you were still, no, where was he?
So thankfully, he was locked up. So that's the only time that I had like any kind of peace. Okay. But also knowing that, the back and forth, we're going to go trial this date, this date, this date, this date. Things kept getting pushed back during this time, which is just crazy to think. But like during this time, my dad died. So like my dad passed away from lung cancer in March of 2021. So David Kroll got arrested August 2020. So now time has gone on. It's back and forth, back and forth. My dad dies. He gets really sick. He dies. I leave a job because I want to be back in Florida with my family. And so I'm also getting these, it's like, I'm still getting these, contacted by the district attorney on my case, or some of these other people who represent the district attorney's office. Like, we're going to be going to trial this date. I'm like, I'm not available right now. I'm in Florida with my family. and they're like, well, if you can't be here, then they're going to throw it out. Like, it just was so crazy, so stressful, so traumatic. But every time they pushed it back, it was because something that he did. So it's like, they don't care about the victim. They don't care about, in fact, the system exhausts us to the point where I had no more witnesses who wanted to give testimony. And it was just, I had one neighbor show up to the trial, but 2 years of dragging this stuff out. Not only that, but like, the laws became a lot less, like, he was at first facing up to 10 years because there was a change in office, and then Gaston came in, the max was 6. So we finally, March 2021, my dad dies. Okay. A year later, February 2022 was when we finally went to trial. It was trial by jury. Okay. So it wasn't even like, they actually gave him a plea deal, which he denied. He didn't want to take it. And so we went to trial by jury. The jury could not know that this man had a previous history of a multitude of felonies and violent crimes. In fact, I moved in here in October 2019, late October 2019. The reason why I was not aware that this man was living back there was because he was still in prison. He actually got out of prison for, I believe it was a domestic battery, or another violent crime. He got out of prison in early November of that year. And that's when I became aware of him, and that he went right back to committing crimes again. So this is a pattern. This is who he is. The jury could not know that. The jury could not know anything about his past because of the laws here. So
wait a second. We need to stop for a second, because I'm floored.
I am too.
But I also want to say the following, because I didn't want to talk over you. I'm so sorry to hear about your father. That is horrific. And the perfect storm. Yeah, I lost my dad too. I know.
I'm so sorry.
But I was 13. But losing your dad of cancer, I don't think it matters how old you are. But it's like this perfect storm of, are you joking? Like, I'm going to lose my dad, and then I'm sitting here dealing with this violent criminal. What I don't understand is why the laws are the way that they are. So it's basically like we're protecting criminals and we're not protecting innocent victims. Who is making these laws? And why are they like this? And obviously at the root of all of this is it money? What is going on?
That is, oh my God, Meghan, you are
No, I'm serious. What is going on? And why is nothing being happen? Nothing is happening. And I don't want to, again, like, I'm going to say this. I am somebody that I am a fan. I want Karen Bass to do well. I actually saw her at a restaurant like 2 months ago, and I'm like, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for these people. But like, let us help you. Like, I don't, and I'm going to be honest, and I don't care if you're a Trump supporter, like, listeners, I'm not. I want my country back. I want like people to be kind, and I want people to be empathetic, and I want Los Angeles to like thrive, and I want California to thrive, and I want it to be the state that it was, like I addressed in the beginning. And I don't want to point fingers, but when I hear what's happened to you, and I see on it, like, I didn't tell you this in the beginning, and it's obviously extremely, like, not even a blip on the radar of what happened to you. But one day I was walking one of my labs. I didn't have both of them, because if I had both of them, this wouldn't have happened to me. But I happened to live in the South Bay. I was walking in Manhattan Beach on the wood chip trail. And I was actually in Hermosa. And there was a homeless man. He got up and he started chasing me. And my dog, like, I'm like, I love you, Rosie, but you're the worst watchdog on the planet. She did nothing. And I had to like jump down. We have like the side of like this wall of ivy. So it was like kind of the ivy goes on the side, and then there's another road. And I slid down this thing. And then I saw 2 moms pushing a stroller, and they go, that homeless guy was chasing you. I was like, I know. And I called my husband crying, and I was like, I just got chased by a homeless person. What do I do? And I called the police, and who knows what they did. And I will tell you though, we're not part of LA because we're in the South Bay, so it's separate. but they're on it. So if you call the cops here, they'll be on it. So we're very fortunate that way. But just hearing everything that you're saying just makes me be like, why? Why is nobody listening? Why are people that are career criminals that are going after young, innocent girls getting away with almost killing someone? Like, somebody that has to be listening to this and tell me why. And the root of this, like I just said, is it money related? Because if it is money related, then there's blood on your hands. And I have news for everybody that's listening. You can live your life having money and everything in this world. Like, we live in an affluent area, right? And there's two sides. So really, really rich tech people, like all the people in Venice. And then there's like the homeless, right? It seems. And then like the in between. But there's blood. You can't take it with you. So if it's about money for these people that are not doing anything to protect like law abiding, tax paying citizens, like, please tell me why. It's not worth it. It's just not. Look at the trauma that you've had to endure. Like, look at what you're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do believe there's some kind of monetary, something that they're gaining from allowing this to happen here. I don't know. I have to do a little more research to kind of find that stuff out, but I do believe that.
But do you think it's like who and what, and it's higher up? And I'm not pointing fingers, but I just want to know why. That's what I want to know. And if you could prove us wrong, or prove me wrong, or prove so many people wrong that encounter, like looting, or, people just walking into Target on a daily basis and stealing stuff and walking out, and the Target workers just stand there with their arms folded. Like, somebody tell us why. Or the looting. And I know that Karen Bass does have, she made a whole team and she's trying to enforce this. So there are things that they're doing, but I just want to know why. I want to know why you have to have this TikTok channel and you have to do all this stuff, and you might have to leave your home.
Yeah, move out of my home. And it's unfortunate because I'm like, I've been paying to live here. I defended this place. I mean, I defended it with my life. He doesn't pay taxes. He doesn't, contribute to society. It doesn't make any sense to me. And also, he's a career criminal. So he has been going, there's no, and it pisses me off too. It's like, because, I mentioned losing my dad. I'm like, my dad lost his life. My dad was a good man. Mm-hmm. And this guy gets to breathe air on this planet. And my dad's gone. And here I am having to cater to him. Like, I have to. So I got a new job at the end of 2021. I was so afraid to get another job because we had this conversation kept going on with like, oh, we're going to go to trial. We're going to go trial. I'm like, well, I don't want to start a new job and then be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I have to go to trial for this next week. I don't know how long it's going to be. And then they're going to ask questions and they're going to be like, oh, are you the one being, or did you commit a crime? They have to explain, oh no, I actually was stalked and attacked. And I don't want to start a new job and having to explain that. I was so afraid of having to do that. And so I did end up getting another job. And then we did go to trial a little bit, like a few months later. But I'm like, this is so disruptive. I'm trying to fight for my neighborhood, for myself. I'm trying to advocate for myself. This man is a violent psychopath. He's a career criminal. How they did not, I know that the records are public. You can find this man's criminal record online. It doesn't make any sense to me. I understand, with a first time offense, like let's say a young kid, maybe was 20 years old and was caught drinking underage. I can understand not wanting to, prosecute them or hold them in a holding cell or put them in prison. Some of the laws like that, okay, a first time offense, but someone like David Kroll, mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's a felony or not. It's like, this man's a career criminal. He's committing crimes. Lock him away. Put him away. Stop teaching them that you can do this. And then all you can get is a slap on the wrist.
Can I ask you, because I know you've done your research on this, I wanted to go back also and ask, why are people not coming forward to help you anymore from your building? They're exhausted.
They're exhausted and they just don't want to get involved. And they're also, so my landlord was
Do you think they're afraid?
They're afraid.
Like, they're afraid. Yeah.
They're afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid. They're exhausted. I had some neighbors who were very supportive. Whenever we had calls with Mike Bonin's office, which by the way, Bonin's terrible.
Wait, is Bonin like for my listeners and myself? So he's the, what is his title? I don't know.
He was the district council member, or he basically represented District 11. So he
that's
was
Venice. That's your
Venice,
whole area. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has since been replaced. I forgot her name, but he did nothing. He did nothing. It's like he's just sat on his hands. He never got involved or help.
Is this the man that, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was trying to get housing for homeless, but then the issue was am I wrong on this? I might be wrong. But I do remember hearing his name. Like, so he was taking credit for buying these buildings and like just putting homeless in them. And then of course, like you can't just put somebody that's on drugs in a building. They're going to burn down the building and paint the walls. Absolutely. It's a mental health. That's where it stems. You have to get, we need to do something about their mental health.
I think that's been happening all over. But Bonin he was also known for just like not doing anything about the homeless problem in Venice. And then his office actually like called in one morning because there was a homeless guy laying out front, and they were afraid. They didn't want to they wanted to have him removed. So then there was a news article came out about how he does nothing to help the residents of Venice. But then like when his office has like a homeless guy just sleeping there, not even committing a crime, not doing anything really wrong, just sleeping there, they're going to call the police and be like, we need to have this man removed because we're scared. He also lived in Pacific Palisades. So he didn't even live here in Venice. He lived in the Palisades, and he's representing Venice. He doesn't even know anything about what's like to live here. He ended up retired. Well, he said that his mental health has been affected, and, you know, I'm not going to make any comments about that because my mental health has been affected, but he ended up, I believe he was, I think that he resigned, or I forgot what the term was for it, but eventually we had a new person come in who's a little more with it, and she's actually trying to she has helped with like cleaning up like some of the encampments around here, but it's still happening. I mean, I wish it would happen a lot faster, but she's done a lot more probably in the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months than he ever did during his entire time here. But it's just
have you been in touch with her? Are there ways to get to these people? We're gonna freaking find ways. Excuse my language. I'm loud.
But I've been in touch. I mean, I don't trust the system anymore. I don't trust this. I don't trust the DA's office. I don't trust our politicians. So I have been contacted. So I'm sorry I keep like going off on these tangents, but
no, I want to know.
After the sentencing, actually after the trial, he was found guilty. The sentencing was April 2022. In the sentencing, they gave him the max, which was 6 years, with credit for the 2 years that he already served. So 4 years, that made him so angry. He gets up, he looks at me, tells me he's going to kill me when he gets out of prison. They had to detain him and escort me out of the courtroom for safety purposes. So the judge, a police officer in the courtroom, the assistant district attorney in my case, and my victim advocate. Yeah, so you have 4 witnesses already to his criminal threats. Not to mention, he also had 2 counts of criminal threats against him, which they dropped because they were like, oh, well, these are just little misdemeanors. We're not going to keep these on because, you know, it's part of I guess like Gason's thing is like, if it's, I don't know, like they drop misdemeanor. I don't know. They won't pile things on like the last DA would have done and given us 10 years. And then also didn't realize too that it's not exactly 4 years because you get credit for every day. It's like every day is a day and a half. So it's like they're trying to get these criminals out of there as fast as possible. So I figured I had at least until April of 2024, being that he got credit for 2 years served. He had 4 more years to serve. And I felt that, okay, he'd probably get out early for good behavior or something. And good behavior. And they actually let him out in June of 2023. So I also went through all the necessary steps to be alerted. I got another restraining order that was good for 5 years. My neighborhood got a stay away order that's good for 10. I went through the steps of being alerted if he was ever moved. So moved from one prison to another, and especially when he gets released. I was never alerted. Never told
nobody, because this is a recent happening, like occurrence. So nobody has ever contacted you. I want my listeners to hear this. this man tried to basically kill you. I mean, he's very, very sick. And nobody told you that he got out of jail. Nobody called you. Nobody texted you. Nothing. Nobody emailed you.
The system failed me. And also, so he threatened to kill me in the courtroom that day. They opened up another case against him for that one. It's gone. No evidence of it ever existing. I had conversations with police officers. My DA was a witness. The judge was a freaking witness. There was my victim advocate was a witness. I had witnesses, and it's just gone. It's gone.
Why is it gone? Like, how can they just erase it?
Because if you're not on top of them, if you're not like on it with them, victims are already going through so much. The heaviness, the trauma, the reliving, you just want to move past it. And then you have to, now you have the responsibility of having to be on top of them to do their jobs. So the DA's office has a victim advocacy office there too. There's victim advocates. It's honestly, if I wish I could sit down with Gaston, I want to. And I want to talk to their victim advocacy office, and I want to explain to them, you should not be supporting victims, because I felt re-victimized in that process. In fact, who came with me to my first day of trial, because I did not even know there was a victim advocacy program with our DA's office? Tara Newell. She's the survivor of Dirty John.
Oh.
So her mother's her mother's he was her boyfriend, but they later realized that they actually got married. But basically, her mother's it's a very famous story, and they did a Bravo show about it. I watched it. I call my stepfather the original Dirty John. Yeah. Her story is insane. And the fact that she came to my first day of trial, you have victims supporting victims, because she gets it. She understands it. She understands what, I mean, and my one through was nothing like what she was actually physically attacked, and she had to
tried to kill her,
defend herself, and she had to kill her attacker.
Mm-hmm.
For me, thank God but it could have been that. Like, it could have escalated to that if I did not take the steps that I did. But she's there supporting me, and I'm just like, it's a victim advocacy office. What are you guys doing?
Let me ask a question. I don't know if you'll know the answer to this. I wonder how many people like actually are killed or like get attacked or go through this kind of thing on a daily basis, and nobody hears about it.
Yeah, it happens. Happens all the time. It happens so much more than. I mean, there's people I've heard stories of people getting attacked, getting hit, getting injured, getting like violently injured. And because I'm so outspoken, because I know how to use social media to advocate for myself and advocate for causes I care about, I can get my voice out. But there's other people who are not as social media savvy, and they don't know how to tell their stories. Not to mention, they're also
not like a brave badass like you are, by the way. I hope you know that. Because your legacy, just so you know, Talia, is your bravery in coming forward, and like this is your purpose. And I hate that this is your purpose. I hate that you have to go through all this shit, and that piece of garbage is still on the streets right now, which we're going to tell the end of it. But I want you to know, like, your story is getting out there, and there's like, you've been on the news. We have an obligation as human beings to support you, and as citizens of this state and where we live. Like, we all need to stand up and say this isn't okay. And if somebody can get to, the DA and say, please give this girl 5 minutes. If anyone's listening, please just do it. Like, she deserves it. I didn't want you to come on, so we were sitting here like bad mouthing elected officials. I really don't want to do that. I just want them to know that this is happening. And I'm probably being way too Pollyanna about it. And, the money thing, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just want somebody to say to me, like, this can be fixed, and there's got to be somebody that can help you. So if somebody's listening to this and can get her a platform, where can people find you before we close? Because I want to know where David is right now.
Yeah.
So where can my listeners find you? If there's somebody that has connections to get to somebody, please can you connect Talia? It's super important.
So you can connect with me over Instagram. I am at Talia, TALIA ELIANA, at Talia Eliana. I'm also on TikTok at _just_Talia. And you can also find me on like Facebook, Talia Landman. And I'm looking at my messages and DMs pretty often. Sometimes I have to take breaks, but there has been a lot of support and people reaching out. But yeah, I need to be able to, there's a few things that I absolutely need that are really important right now.
Yeah, tell my listeners, especially the job situation, right?
Yes. But one thing I just also want to say before I go and even like go into that is that the thing is that this is bigger than me. I told this to the journalist as well. Like I'm advocating for myself, but like this, it could be anyone. It could be you, it could be your daughters, it could be anyone. And that's why this is so important, because this is happening and this could be, it's not okay. And it's not just about me, it's about the safety of everyone. So, the other thing too is, so end of 2022, I lost my job. I was leading social media for a very popular chain of fitness studios, high intensity interval training fitness classes. And I was leading social media for about 55 studios across 2 different states. I lost my job. The job market has been really tough ever since. I've been trying to find full-time work. I've been taking on contracts instead. And those contracts are not permanent. And sometimes like they're just like small little projects or gigs. And with me having to leave my apartment now, I mean, I've been on the full-time job search for almost a year already. So now it's getting now it's survival. Now it's like, cause I can continue living here and scraping by, but I need to move now, and I don't have the funds to do so. I felt so cringe doing it. I felt terrible doing it, but I started to GoFundMe to raise
share
money.
your GoFundMe, because people need, this is not, by the way, if I thought something was a scam, I would never, ever, ever, ever share something like this. So if you do want to donate $5, $3, $1, if you're a supporter of mine and you listen every week, instead of donating to me and supporting my show, I would rather you support Talia, because she needs to get out. This man, just to end kind of what's going on, he's out. He's out again. He's not listening to the orders, where whatever it is, like that stupid protection order, which sounds like a bunch of BS. And he's been stalking again, right? So he knows where you live. What's the latest with that? Just so my listeners know.
He actually has been arrested twice since he was released from prison back in June.
Okay, and he was hospitalized, right?
Yes. So there was something else happened a few weeks ago where I'm not too sure what it is. They wouldn't tell me, but it has something to do with, I'm pretty sure it was a domestic battery of some sort. He was ejected from a vehicle. I think his girlfriend probably pushed him out the van that they were sharing, because he had a van.
Wait, so he's still with the girlfriend, like on and off? Is
actually
this a new girlfriend?
At the trial too, and she got him a defense attorney. Yeah, it's the same one. It's abusive, and that's I understand it with abusive relationships, and unfortunately,
no, it's a trauma bond. I talk about it all the time.
Exactly.
She's obviously in a trauma bond with a very sick person. She's probably pretty sick too.
Yeah. And it's terrible, but he was taken to the emergency room. He was in the hospital. So he was in the hospital getting treated like, a king, having 3 meals a day, a nice warm bed, getting cared for and taken care of. And then his probation officer contacted me a little over a week ago, telling me that he actually called me the day before on a Thursday. I didn't answer because I was I can't remember what I was doing. I think I've been in trauma brain land that it's just sometimes I just shut off. in order for me to do the little work that I do have. And so he calls me on Friday and tells me, well, I called you yesterday because there was a good chance that he was going to try to escape the hospital and try to come back to your area. And I wanted you to get out of your apartment. But luckily we got him before he could leave. So he's wearing an ankle monitor. He didn't charge it. And that's a violation of his probation. He's supposed to charge his ankle monitor so they always know where he is. And he wasn't charging it. And he was trying to escape the hospital without charging it, so they couldn't find him. And so luckily they found him and they arrested him, and he was being held in jail. And the probation officer told me it could be 8 days, or it could be 10 days, or it could be 80. And I'm like, well, can you let me know if it's going to be 80? And he's like, I will let you know if it's only going to be 10. I'll let you know if he gets out. But even then, I don't trust him to contact me and be like, hey, Talia, I just wanted to let you know. I have to be on top of him for that. So
yeah.
I believe today or tomorrow is the 10th day. So I have to contact the probation officer to figure this stuff out. Is he going to be, released again? If he is, he's going to be back here in this area. And it's just really tough dealing with it, because I'm also trying to live a normal life. I'm having job interviews, but I'm also, they're going to Google search me and they're going to see all these articles popping up and they're going to say, we don't want to deal with someone like that.
No, don't say that, because we're going to put the power of positivity out there. There's a job. You're a smart girl. I mean, I would hire you in a second. Give me a break. If I had a job, I'd be like, hey, Talia, but you're going to find a job. But like I said, you are a badass, number one. And you have to help other victims.
Yeah.
This is part of your purpose in life. And I say this all the time, like, live a purpose-driven life. Like, do it. You can help so many people. You're going to help yourself. He needs to obviously be in a mental health facility. He's obviously very, very sick.
He's going to kill someone. He's going to kill someone.
So we need to get this person off of the streets. However I can involve my loud self, I will. You have my word on that. So if you need me to come with you or talk to somebody, I'm here. But again, can you share your GoFundMe, because we want to try and get you out of that apartment? Because here's the thing, everyone. So you're probably wondering, this is a smart person. She had a job. Why can't she just get another job? Whatever. Why can't she just, it's expensive to live in California. It's extremely expensive. And then we're living with these other things. You can't move and get a lease signed when you are not employed. So remember that. So that's part of the issue right now. So she doesn't have a full-time job. So she's going to have to put down a whole deposit on a new place to live without a full-time job. Like, no landlord is going to do that.
No.
Okay.
No.
So that's why we're trying to find we're going to try and support her GoFundMe. And then if you are somebody of means to hire somebody that's a badass marketing director, or you need a social media person, let's help Talia. And then lastly, like I said, this has gone over the hour, so I apologize. I'm extremely, extremely passionate about this. I do, just like Talia is, I do not want to be pointing fingers. I don't want to be like, this is about money. That was a legitimate question. I want my politicians, or the politicians, to do something to help innocent victims, innocent people, tax-paying citizens, and stop protecting people that are violent criminals. That's it, period. And do something to help us with our mental health crisis and our homeless issue. And if you are doing that, which I believe that there are people that are doing that, and I do believe that Karen Bass is one of them. I do. Is it Barnes? Bass? What did I say the wrong name? Sorry. Why did I just get confused? It's been a long morning. Anyways, Karen Bass, I think her intentions are good. I think there's really good people with good intentions. And like we said, there's not always great people with great intentions, but we're going to try to think the best of people. So in closing, Talia, I'm here, like, whatever you need. I'm not kidding when I say I'm here for you. And to my listeners, thank you for supporting. Thank you for listening. Please say your GoFundMe. so we can close that way.
Oh yeah, so it's actually linked. So if you go onto my social media, Instagram or TikTok, you'll see a link in there, and it's either in my link in bio or the link is directly in there, like it is on TikTok. Let me quickly.
And then also, Talia, you follow me on Judging Meghan, and then I'll post it in my stories.
Yes.
And then I'm going to repost this so that when this episode comes out this coming Tuesday, because I'm trying to get a quick turnaround, I'm hoping it'll be up, and I'll share it again at that time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. California, I love you. You're my golden state. I love you so much. I just want you to get your act together, please, please. We want California back, right?
Yes. I want to continue living here. I love California. I want to be safe here.
Yeah, we all just want to be safe. That's all we're asking. In closing, everyone, be happy by making other people happy. Thank you again, Talia.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.